In my hypothesis, I stated that the participant's heart rate would experience an anticipatory rise in heart rate. This is because the body is preparing itself for exercise. The heart rate speeds up slightly due to emotions that are felt before and are channeled through adrenaline and noradrenaline. We then expect to see an increase in heart rate due to exercise starting. The heart rate increases more here as the body needs to get more oxygen around, so does this by getting the heart to pump blood out faster. We then were expecting to see a plateau in heart rate at around the 3 to 5 minute mark as the body finds the optimum heart rate to sustain the exercise. After exercise has finished, we expect to see a sudden drop in heart rate as the demand for oxygen around the body has disappeared, so the heart does not need to pump blood out as fast as during exercise. For the method, we used a blood pressure monitor and a Fitbit to measure heart rate. Using these every 2 minutes, we noted what the heart rate was. For the normative data, we expected to see at first an anticipatory rise. The normative data states that there is at first an anticipatory rise as the body prepares itself for exercise during 3 to 0 minutes. After this, when exercise starts, there should be a sharp increase in the body as the body is demanding more oxygen, so the heart rate speeds up to match the demand. Around the 3rd to 5th minute, we're looking for a plateau in the heart rate as the body should have matched the demand of oxygen by the muscles, which would therefore create a steady state of exercise. After exercise is finished, the heart rate is expected to drop off straight away and begin to decrease back to the resting levels. This is because after exercise there should not be any oxygen debt to replace, meaning that the demand for oxygen around the body is no longer and returns to normal. The results we recorded, as you can see, Summer and Maximus are shown to plateau around the 6th minute. However, for Maximus, he is shown to be working at over 180 beats per minute, which means he is working at an anaerobic level, which is supported at the 10 to 12 minute mark, where he showed to drop the intensity to be working aerobically. This is because this is where the results level off once more, until the end of exercise. For Summer, she works below the 180 beats per minute mark with only one blip above it, which shows for the majority of the exercise she is working aerobically. Summer's line on the chart is the most accurate to performing steady-state exercise. Josh is shown at the start of exercise until the 2nd minute to have a decrease in heart rate, which is very unusual. This could be due to either Josh performing too intense a warm-up before the start of exercise, or it could have been a misreading from the heart rate monitor. Throughout the exercise, to not be working hard enough until the 18th minute. This is displayed on the graph as the constant increase in heart rate until the 18th minute, where it stays the same until the 20th, and then drops back down after exercise. This shows he was working aerobically, but not hard enough. In our hypothesis for energy system analysis, we stated that participants performing the exercise would be using their aerobic energy system as their main energy system. This is because they'll be performing for over 3+ minutes, which is how long the lactic acid system is, which is the second longest lasting. Also, to be working for 20+ minutes, you have to be working aerobically, backing up that the aerobic energy system is going to be the main energy system used. We used an oximeter to measure the participant's O2 saturation and measured this every 2 minutes. However, some readings didn't come up, and used a lactate machine to measure participants' blood lactate levels every 6 minutes, and again some results didn't come back from the machine. Normative data for steady-state exercise suggests that the O2 saturation should be between 95 to 99% during steady-state exercise, and it also says the blood lactate level should remain low, as during aerobic performance there should not be a build-up of lactic acid in the muscles. High blood lactate levels in the blood show that participants are not working aerobically. This is because the only way to gain lactic acid buildups is by using the anaerobic energy system, which means the participant would have to be working anaerobically, which is not steady state. Comparing our results to normative data, Maximus and Summer are shown to have higher levels of blood lactate than what it should be during steady state exercise. The blood lactate level should remain relatively steady. However, as shown on the graphs, Maximus starts off in the 9.8 category, and Summer is at 12.4. This is considerably higher than what they should be for steady-state exercise, and they are at that level for Maximus before exercise has started. This could be due to him warming up too much or doing too intense a warm-up before the exercise, and the same can be said for Summer. Maximus's lactate levels also continue to increase until the 12-minute mark, in which it's at 17.2, which is showing that he has been working outside of his aerobic zone and into his anaerobic zone, as this much lactate should not be present. The same is seen for Summer at the 20-minute mark, which could be that she was told to push harder for the last stages of exercise. Josh's lactate levels can be seen as a lot lower than the other two participants, showing thus that he was working aerobically. Even between the 12th and 20th minute mark, where it shows a steep incline, it only reaches a level of 3, which is still working aerobically. This increase should have been because he wasn't working hard enough during exercise and needed to pick up the pace of the exercise to be working in his anaerobic zone of 70 to 80% of his maximum heart rate. O2 saturation can also be used to determine what energy system is being used. This is because O2 saturation is a measure of how much oxygen is in the blood. So, for example, if someone's working anaerobically, they won't have as high a percentage of O2 saturation as they're making energy from a different system, not the aerobic system. When working aerobically, our participants' O2 saturation shouldn't drop below 95%, as in steady-state exercise they should be getting enough oxygen around the body. Looking at the O2 saturation graph with Maximus, it shows his O2 sat stays above the 95% mark until the 6th minute. This can see it drop to 92% saturation. This also matches the lactate chart, where at the 6th minute his lactate is on the rise. This backs up that he was not working aerobically, as not only is he developing a buildup of lactate, he is also losing O2 saturation in his blood. This can be seen again at the 12-minute mark, where his lactate levels hit the highest they go, and matches the O2 saturation where it hits the lowest saturation of 83%. This is further evidence that he is doing steady-state exercise, as the normative data states that both O2 sat and lactate levels should remain the same throughout steady-state exercise. For Summer and Maximus, a lot of the data mid-exercise didn't come through, which means there's not a lot to go off. However, Josh's lactate levels are the lowest, and this can be matched within the first 8 minutes of his exercise, as his O2 saturation levels stay the same consistently. This matches the pattern of steady-state exercise, and therefore tells us that as he matches the normative data, he was working in a steady-state exercise, at least for the first 8 minutes. Summer's data shows a constant line to the 6th minute, where it dips to the 8th minute at a saturation of 96. However, as it is beginning to dip and can be seen for the next 2 minutes of her exercise, her lactate increases a lot, which means it could drop her O2 saturation levels, but her final reading is above 95%, so it's difficult to say. However, the data that have been recorded, that her O2 sat levels stay above 95%, so for what's recorded, her O2 saturation suggests she's working aerobically at a steady state. In our hypothesis, we stated that we expected to see a slight increase in breathing rate due to anticipatory rise before exercise, as the release of adrenaline and noradrenaline prepares the body for exercise. We then said that we expected the breathing to become deeper and heavier because of exercise starting and the demand for oxygen around the body goes up, and by breathing deeper it achieves the intake of the extra necessary oxygen. We then went on to say that around the 4th minute we would expect the breathing rate to plateau as the exercise remains at a constant speed, and the body would have found the optimum breathing rate to sustain muscles getting as much oxygen as they need during exercise. After exercise, we expect to see an instant drop-off of breathing rate, as there is no oxygen debt to repay, as they should be working aerobically, so the breathing rate has no reason to stay high. The method we used to measure our participants' breathing rate is that every 2 minutes a member of the team would look at their chest moving in and out and count every time it pushed out for 30 seconds. Then we doubled that score. This was the only way we had to measure our participants' breathing rate. However, it is very susceptible to human error, as it can be quite hard to see someone's chest move in and out when they are exercising. Comparing our results to steady-state exercise normative data, it shows us that Summer and Josh are the most accurate to replicating the data. This is because, as you can see, they both start with a slight increased breathing rate from rest. This is as the normal breathing rate of an average adult at rest is around 12 breaths per minute. However, their breathing rates at the pre-stage are at 16 and 18 breaths per minute. From 2 to 6 minutes, in the normative data, it shows the breathing rate increasing for the participant, and this can also be seen for Summer, as her breathing rate also increases until the 6th minute. However, for Josh, his breathing rate takes a drop from 34 to 26 breaths per minute. This could be due to him working too hard at the start of exercise, or could be faulty reading from the equipment. From the 8th until the 20th minute, both participants' breathing rates stay relatively level. However, both have a slow but steady incline. This could be due to their muscles fatiguing because they are unfit, or could be they are starting to work too hard as exercise goes on. However, as Summer's breathing rate between 8 and 20 minutes only deviates between 28 and 36 breaths per minute, this could be stated as remaining quite level, as the normative data for breathing rate shows that they should be at 30 breaths per minute while exercising, and Josh's deviates between 30 and 36 breaths per minute, showing for both Summer and Josh that breathing rates only just go above what is expected, and so they can be said to be performing at a steady state, as they never going to be perfect on 30 breaths per minute each time. Finally, both Summer and Josh don't match the pattern for breathing rate on normative data chart for dropping straight after exercise. They do. This shows they were working aerobically, as they recovered straight away after stopping exercise. The only way this wouldn't occur is if they were working anaerobically for any period of time within the exercise, in which there would be an oxygen debt to pay off, as both their breathing rates on the graph drop off straight away, and it can be said they are working at a steady state throughout their 20-minute exercise. Maximus, however, is way off steady state exercise normative data when comparing his graph of breathing rate. This can be seen from the first reading of 2 minutes into his exercise, where he should be building his breathing rate up to around 30 breaths per minute, but he is already at 40 breaths per minute. This could be due to him working himself too hard, or people around him telling him to work harder when he doesn't need to be. His breathing rate is shown to increase as well. His heart rate is shown to increase as well until the 10th minute, where it reaches a maximum of 48 beats per minute, in which is increasing the intensity of exercise until 10 minutes into the exercise, where he should have plateaued off at around 4 minutes in. After 10 minutes, his breathing rate drops, which is shown, but only drops to 42 breaths per minute, showing that even though he may have either been told to slow down or could not keep up the intensity of exercise he is still working too hard for it to be considered steady state. Between 20 and post 1, his heart rate should experience a drop instantly after exercise, as when working aerobically. This is what happens. However, you can see with Maximus's breathing rate at post 1, it is the same as it was at the 20-minute mark during exercise. This shows that for part of the exercise, most likely the first 10 minutes where he was working anaerobically, and his breathing rate continues to stay level after dropping off, as his body is having to continue to the heavy breathing to pay off oxygen that he has built up anaerobically. Finally, is agreeing with our hypothesis. I am disagreeing with all 3 hypotheses I proposed, as not all of the participants match the normative data like predicted. This can be changed by redoing the test in a more controlled environment to get the readings as accurate as possible.